Hello, everybody. This is Kathy Wrigling from Orange Audubon Society. I'm going to talk to you today about preparing for your bird count on your campus. This program was brought to you in partnership with the Cornell K-12 Education Program. So what is community science? Community science, where people everywhere report observations of natural events using basic scientific procedures. And you too can be a citizen scientist and help by counting birds. These projects have volunteers of all ages and partner with scientists to answer real-world questions because scientists can't be everywhere. And there are a lot of citizen science projects, everything from ants to zebras, to rain, to stars, all kinds of things. We're going to be focusing on Cornell lab projects, which for your bird count would be eBird, but there are other projects too. You can watch feeders, you can watch bird nests, all kinds of things. And your observations do matter, no matter what age you are. The information you provide helps scientists put the pieces together on where birds are and when they're there. Why do we pick birds for this project? You might think, well, I don't see any birds, but the more you start looking for them, you'll realize birds are everywhere. And anyone can learn to identify their local birds with some resources and some practice. I'm going to go into that. So getting ready to count birds, here are some things you need to do before your class is ready to count. First, you need to decide where you're going to count birds. You want to find on your campus a place that could provide either food for birds, water for birds, or shelter. And decide on a time. And birds are generally more active in the morning. Your teacher will probably want to create an account on eBird, and there's information in other videos about that. And this kind of shows you how to create an account. Choose a resource to help you identify birds. There's a neat little app for your teacher called Merlin, and it's free, easy to use. Or you could use a field guide, and they're really good, and that way everyone can kind of look at it together. Some basics of bird identification include looking at the size of the bird, what shape it is, the color or colors, their behavior, and where they're located, their habitat. And you want to think about the size of the bird. So birds can be anywhere from sparrow size to robin or cardinal size to crows to geese. You think about what size is the bird that you're seeing. And you want to think about the general bird families. And I bet you know most of these. So if it's on the side of a tree, pecking the wood, it's probably a woodpecker. If it has that stocky shape, it's probably an owl. If it is soaring in the sky, it's probably a bird of prey. If it's floating in the water, it's a duck or some type of waterfowl. If it's a small bird perching in a tree, probably singing, it's a songbird. If it's a very large bird that's kind of waddling around, it's a goose. And if it's at a beach type place, could be inland, it's probably a gull. And you want to notice when you see a bird, the main colors, the three main colors that you might see. And it might only have one color, but it could have multiple colors. And think about what the bird is doing. Is it eating something? Is it swimming? Is it on the ground? Is it a tree? Is it flying? If you do use the Merlin app with your class, these questions will be generated for you. If you don't use it, it's okay. You're going to be able to use your resources to help figure out what you're seeing. If you do use Merlin, it will provide you a list when you answer the questions of possible birds that you're seeing. And you can look at them. And you find the bird that matches, you just click, yeah, that's my bird. And then it'll tell you all about it. And you can also submit your data into Merlin. You can say, take me to Merlin, but will be gone over in a separate video for the teachers. There are plenty of field guides that can help you identify the bird that have pictures and maps and information. Another thing in your class is each student could get a local bird and they could draw a picture and write information and they could become an expert. So when you're out looking for birds, if they see their bird, they'll be the one to say, yes, that is a Carolina chickadee. And I know because I researched it. And here's some local examples. And so on the day of the count, oh my goodness, the person that did palm warbler, they would recognize it right away and say, yeah, there's a palm warbler, and they could tell you all about it. That way you can kind of spread the expertise. Each person can become an expert in one bird that's common in your area. So how do you figure out what's common? If your teacher has the Merlin app, you can go to the Explore Birds on the homepage of that app, hit the slider to set local settings, and then it'll give you a list of the common birds. And I have the common birds on the next slide. I went ahead and did that on my Merlin. So these are some of the common birds for May, like northern cardinal, Carolina wren, red-bellied woodpecker, mourning dove, great egret, red-shouldered hawk, and a whole bunch more. So these are just from Merlin. So where do you go to look for birds? Well, the first thing you want to look is if you have any treetops on your campus. A lot of birds like to sit on top of the trees and look at their territory, like this swallowtail kite. So that's a good place to start. You also want to notice in the bushes and trees around where you are, movement. If you see something hopping around or flying up and flying down, you're going to find a bird there. So this is a recent picture of an eastern kingbird, and it was flying up and down to a branch of a tree, and it was catching insects, and that's how I was able to see it. You also want to look for fruit, nuts, or berries, and often birds will be eating those. So this is a beautiful little warbler called the Cape May warbler, and it was eating figs. You also want to check the sky. There's going to be birds up high in the sky soaring. So this is a short-tailed hawk that just flew overhead. You're going to have to look really quick with your binoculars to try to see it. Some tips on binoculars. So you always want to keep binoculars around your neck so they don't fall. And if they fall, it does mess them up. You want to keep your fingers off any glass parts of the binoculars so you don't get fingerprints on those parts. We have cleaning cloths to clean those off, though, if it does. And then before you use your binoculars, you want to find a bird first. First, find the bird with your eyes, and then bring your binoculars up to where your eyes are, and then you should be right on the bird, unless it flew away. But that's the best way to try it. You always want to stand still while you're using your binoculars. Don't try to walk and use your binoculars because you're going to probably fall down and you're not going to see much. And be really patient. This is like riding a bike. It takes time, it takes practice, and the more you use your binoculars, the better you're going to get. So you're not going to be expert the first time you pick up a pair of binoculars. For your teachers, prior to the count date, just decide how you're going to submit your data. Are you going to use Merlin? Merlin won't give you, you can't count how many of each bird you get. You can use eBird. Orange Audubon does have a video on YouTube called For Educators, Counting Birds for Science that goes through all those. And I can send you the link too, if you're interested. You can count any bird that's wild as long as you can identify it by sight or sound. You can't count like chickens and peacocks and those kind of things. And if you can't identify a bird, like in this picture, that bird is totally backlit, don't worry about it. You don't need to count it. And some things to remember when you're watching birds, if the bird stops doing what it was doing, you're too close. You're upsetting it. So you want to back away. Don't go on private property. Always stay on trails. If you see a bird nest, don't get too close because you're going to upset the parents. Don't play bird calls. And if others in your class are looking at a bird, don't run up and yell, "What is it?" Because the bird will fly away. You want to walk up very close, quietly and slowly, and that way everyone can enjoy it. And for your teachers, if you're doing more than one bird count throughout the day, then you keep a separate list for each one. Teachers, for more information, there is a free 1-hour course on eBird, and that's the website to go. And you can watch it. It tells you in even more depth on how to use eBird. And thank you for contributing science and counting birds. And my email is education@orangeaudubonfl.org. If you have any questions, need any help with this bird count, just let me know. And thank you again for joining us, and have fun on your bird count.